Okay. The ancient Aramaic scriptures are now accessible through this translation project. Here you can read the words of Maran Yoshua Mashika, as I mentioned quite a few times throughout my videos at the Ministry of the Real Truth channel. Okay. Maran Yoshua Mashika, or Maria Yoshua Mashika, or Isho, our Lord Jesus the Messiah, and the sacred writings of the prophets. They are translated from the original language of the scriptures. He's a native Aramaic speaking translator. Ancient Aramaic is the oldest form of the language. This is the language Yoshua, or Isho, Jesus spoke 2,000 years ago. The language of ancient Mesopotamia and the Jewish people. The ancient Aramaic, or the Kitav Asherit, and its sister language was the Kitav Ivri, or the ancient Hebrew. Today you have a modernized Hebrew. Okay? It's very different. The two are very different, because originally they had the same words with the same meanings, but when vowels were added, it not only changed the structure of the language but also the meaning of the words. So you have Yuma in Aramaic, which means immeasurable period, eon, era, age, day with a capital D, and then you have the Hebrew Yom, okay, its sister language, which means day. I'm not too sure about immeasurable period, etc., etc., but it means day with a capital D. Okay, so that verifies that they were once sister languages. And then you have the modified or modern version, or modern Hebrew today. Okay, this is the language. Galilean Aramaic is a derivative, right, of that ancient Aramaic. It comes from there, from the ancient Kitav Asher, or Assyrian Aramaic. This is the language Joshua, or Jesus, or Isho, spoke 2,000 years ago, the language of ancient Mesopotamia and the Jewish people. Because they are originally these Judeans, they are originally the Jews. The first two letters they used, alright, from their name, Yahudians, Yahudai, etc., right, and it became Jew. Yeah. You have a look at the German, they say Juden, which is Juden, right? Juden. Yeah. The ancient Aramaic. This is the language that modern day theologians refer to as Aramaic. Victor N. simply identified this language more clearly than the American churches and the Western translators of the Bible. It is wrong to call this language merely Aramaic. Aramaic is a modern language. Okay, I think he's talking about the Syriac, like modern Hebrew, Arabic, Persian, etc. Most languages of the Middle East and the rest of the world, in fact, have evolved from this first language, the first ever spoken on earth, supposedly. Therefore, the language of the scriptures should be identified as ancient Aramaic. Ancient, it's the old tongue, scribal tongue, sacred tongue, etc. Not the modern Aramaic, which is the Syriac, a derivative of it, right? It is necessary to call it ancient, otherwise, well, that's very, very old, otherwise everyone can deny that the scriptures were originated in this language, the language that the Creator, God, Maya Allaha, Maya Yoshua, Jesus the Messiah, of the universe and his Son spoke. This is the language of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, and David. It has gone through thousands of years of evolution, cycles, changes. The ancient Aramaic language of the scriptures is no longer a spoken language, it's a dead language. But, as he states further on somewhere, that there are people in the East that can speak that old, supposed dead language, but they just can't speak English, so they can't translate it to you. Yeah? So what they do is they created a modern vernacular, okay, but they still use that ancient language as liturgy in their mass, right? There are people out there who can still speak it, but they don't know English, so they can't translate it. So they had to make for people. So they made a modern vernacular. Okay, and they also speak a little Arabic in the Syriac mass, as I was told by a Syrian person. Okay, as it said, it is necessary to call it ancient, otherwise everyone can deny that the scriptures were originated in this language. Yeah, everyone says it's Greek, that Jesus spoke Greek, it's all written in Greek. Total error. The language that the creator of that Jesus spoke the Greek as the disciples spoke the Greek. It was all originally in Greek when it wasn't. Okay, it is necessary to call it ancient, otherwise everyone can deny that the scriptures were originated in this language, the language that the Creator of the universe and His Son spoke. This is the language of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, and David. It has gone through thousands of years of evolution, or cycles, changes, right? Everything evolves, languages evolve. The ancient Aramaic language of the scriptures is no longer a spoken language, and the last time it was used as a literary language was in 1300 AD. Okay. Today, the ancient Aramaic remains only as a liturgical language, as I said. There are a number of Eastern churches that still use this language in their liturgy in order for the people of the world to start learning about the scriptures. Truth. Everyone must come to understand that the Bibles being disseminated or pushed out into the world today are mostly translated from the English language versions, or they are conformed to the Protestant and Catholic Bibles from various languages. So that's where that video, the American Bible Society and Their Lies, becomes evident. I'll leave that link below this video so you can check it out for yourself. This translation, done by Victor N. Alexander, is the only one that has been made from the, the original ancient Aramaic scriptures without prejudice, bias, its own twist or flavour. It is made available to you, was from that website, so you can probably get it on Amazon. Okay, I got mine cheaper, as I mentioned in my videos, from him, directly from him. Okay, and it has down here, that was in November 10th, 2011 when the site was up. Okay, translation notes. When the Roman Church established its authority in the West, it abandoned the Eastern scriptures that were recorded by the apostles in the ancient Aramaic language. From the start, when the Roman Emperor Constantine ordered the expulsion of the ancient Church of the East from Asia Minor, the Western scriptures were wrongfully drawn from the Greek Septuagint, Old Testament, and the Greek original translations of the New Testament. This is how the Western churches abandoned the apostolic faith. Only the Eastern churches and the Orthodox churches have retained some of the original apostolic doctrines. Okay, so along with Victor N. Alexander, we at the Ministry of the Real Truth would like to see the original apostolic faith and the doctrines through those doctrines restored. Okay. Internet reaching the saturation point. With every phenomenon of communication, there comes a time when there's too much content, too many people speaking at once. We can already see this with TV news commentators speaking over each other, and the moderator saying that we have no more time, we'll talk about it next time, and there's no next time. Whatever the subject, it was already talked to death. Whatever it is one is searching for on the internet, there are now a myriad of products, offerings, and opinions. They fall at the two sides of the spectrum, from good to bad, positive to negative, and true to false, and no one knows who's right and who's wrong. We used to say in the 60s, you're alright, I'm alright. Now it's more like, run for your life. Yeah, it's very true. I found that. There's a lot of so-called truth on the internet, okay, but there's a whole lot of deception, mistranslations, bad transliterations, downright deceptive claims, right? Misinformation, disinformation, deliberately put out there. Okay. The voices of individuals are drowning in the oceans of the masses. Words don't mean the same anymore. Languages have evolved to the point of being unintelligible, as they don't represent the original concepts that gave them birth. However, the internet is going to solve its own problems, just as other forms of communications solve their problems when they fail to be a meaningful expression of their creators. Out of the chaos, there will emerge a new form of communication. We're in the infancy of the communication age. Anything can happen in another 30 or 40 years. Things will start to make more sense. And he goes on about the origins of the language of the scriptures. There are some people that think Greek is the language of the New Testament. There is a huge amount of information on the internet on the subject. Victor N. Alexander at the time was trying to deal with this issue through the Aramaic videos and audio files that he supplies, posting on his website, and by explaining the Lord's Prayer word for word He was trying to awaken the readers to consider the actual teachings of Yoshua, or Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah. He says here you'll find the links to the videos and audios files at the top of this page. Yeah, that's true. Okay, we'll look at those later. The first civilization book that he translated or wrote was and published was originally a script proposal for the documentary, which he shot in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, and the British Museum in London, England. Okay. And he says here, there's an avalanche of information on the internet presenting contradictory studies regarding Aramaic. None of this information is by native Aramaic-speaking individuals. Today, there are millions of Aramaic-speaking people. They speak modern Aramaic or the Syriac. This is not what Victor N. Alexander calls ancient Aramaic. Ancient Aramaic is the Asherite language, or Ketav Asherite, Assyrian Aramaic, language of Nineveh at the time of Yeshua Mashiach, or Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah. He had studied this language all his life. He's translating the Old Testament at that point and was planning to make movies about the subject of the origins of the faith in Yeshua Mashiach's name, or Jesus the Messiah's name. Okay, but he needed funding. Okay, I don't know if he ever reached his goal. He started and presented a small portion of that movie, which is pretty interesting. It's not Hollywood, even though he had did have a wife. His wife Liv was in many shows in Hollywood, like Star Quest, The Red Queen, etc. And by the sounds of it, he was doing a lot of film work there. As a film graduate from San Francisco, I think he said in the 40s or 50s or something like that. Okay, so that's basically that for that, bringing you the information from this man's downed website that I revived. It's just to give you that knowledge, okay, about this guy. Who is this guy? Is he for real? Okay, is he another one of these people pulling the wool over your eyes, etc., etc. I've been in contact with him over the years. Found him to be a lovely older man, right? Very patient. He takes time out to have a chuckle, you know. I think he's great. Okay, so yeah, we'll leave it there. That was the first civilization, according to native-born Aramaic-speaking Mesopotamian translator Victor N. Alexander. So if you like that and you want to know more, then we suggest you subscribe below, set that notification bell, give us a like, and you go tell your friends all about it.